Around here, we ask the important questions in life, like, has a punter ever been taken in the first round of the NFL draft? What about a place kicker, long snapper, or a fullback? You'd also be surprised at which positions have not been taken number 1 overall. Today, we're gonna go through the highest draft pick for every position in the NFL, and the results might shock you, because this is vital information. Being a guy is tough, isn't it? Well, do you know what's tougher than being a guy? Buying a gift for a guy. Luckily, things just got way easier. This is the Perfect Package 4.0 from Manscaped, and it has everything a guy needs and actually wants. Just like a well-shaved twig and berries, this is a gift that keeps on giving. Featuring the waterproof Lawnmower 4.0 that is a cordless electric trimmer with skin-safe technology. With 7,000 RPMs of cutting power and a long-lasting battery that even has a charging light that comes in clutch at night to help you find the toilet. Guys, I know you understand. But there's more. Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant with Aloe Vera Crop Reviver Ball Toning Spray, and hell, it even comes with refined cologne so you can cover all your bases. And look, the special flap has 2 free gifts, performance boxers and a shed travel bag. So after this video, order this bad boy, pop a bow on it, and call it a day. Head on over to manscaped.com/5-points and get 20% off and free shipping. Again, that's manscaped.com/5-points for 20% off and free shipping. Thank you, Manscaped, for sponsoring this video, and have a happy holidays. Before we get started, Super Bowl era only. Let's start with the obvious one, quarterback. It should be of no surprise that quarterback is the most often position picked number 1 overall in the draft. It's the most important on-field job in football, maybe sports, and if you're lucky enough to tank properly, it can change your franchise. Bengals. The first quarterback taken number 1 overall in the Super Bowl era was Terry Bradshaw, Louisiana Tech's rocket arm passer, who went to the Steelers in 1970 and spearheaded their 4 Super Bowl wins in that decade. Since Bradshaw went first, 25 quarterbacks have been picked number 1 overall. Edge. It might be tricky separating defensive ends and edge rushing linebackers, but we'll give it our best shot and try to combine the two. Trayvon Walker did just about everything at Georgia, but if we classify him as a defensive end, he would be the most recent DE selected first overall. He'd also be the most recent edge taken first. Funny that's how that works. In recent drafts, Myles Garrett also went first, as did Jadeveon Clowney and Mario Williams. Von Miller, Chris Long, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, and a few others have come off the board, 2nd overall. In today's NFL, pass rushers are at a premium, and it's no surprise they're regularly selected in the first few picks of the draft. Running back. A running back would never go first overall in the draft these days, but there was a time when the position mattered, or at least so we thought. The first running back to be selected number 1 overall in the Super Bowl era was none other than the Juice himself, Orenthal James Simpson, who's best known for his 2,000-yard season, those charming Hertz commercials, and his Twitter account. Since the Juice came off the board first, Ricky Bell, Billy Sims, George Rogers, Bo Jackson, and Kajarna Carter were all taken with the first pick of the draft. But it's not too likely we'll see it happen in the near future. The highest we've seen a running back go in the 21st century was when the Saints took Reggie Bush 2nd overall in 2006, and also when Saquon Barkley was taken number 2 overall in 2018. Defensive tackle. 5 interior defensive linemen had come off the board first overall. Bubba Smith, Kenneth Sims, Russell Maryland, Steve Emptman, and Dan Big Daddy Wilkinson. Smith became an All-Pro, but it's hard to say anyone else lived up to their draft slot. Defensive tackle has been undervalued recently, but Quinnen Williams was taken 3rd overall by the Jets and has quietly anchored their line ever since. Offensive tackle. Tackle is widely regarded as a premier position in football, and it's usually treated as such in the draft. Now, this may be surprising. A number of tackles have gone first overall, most recently when the Chiefs took Eric Fisher first in the infamous 2013 draft. 5 years earlier, Michigan's Jake Long became a Miami Dolphin when they opted to use their first pick on a tackle rather than a quarterback like, say, Matt Ryan. And Hall of Famer Orlando Pace was a home run by the Rams with pick 1 in 1997. I mean, that was an easy one. Then if you go back to 1968, Ron Yeri was the pick at 1 for the Vikes, and all he did was stack 8 All-Pros and a gold jacket. Wide receiver. With every year that goes by, it seems like there are more and more talented wide receivers going in the draft. And while that may be true, that abundance of options at the receiver position may keep them from going 1-1. Only on 2 occasions has a wide receiver gone first off the board. Irving Fryer to the Patriots in 1984 and Keyshawn Johnson to the Jets in 1996. Both turned out to be good to great in the NFL, and Fryer may have a case as a Hall of Famer. 2 receivers have gone second overall, and they were both Lions. The late Charles Rogers in 2003 and Calvin Johnson went second in 2007. Now, what's hard to believe is that in 2008, there were no wide receivers taken in the first round of the draft. In the second round, however, Donnie Avery, Devin Thomas, Jordy Nelson, Eddie Royal, and Jerome Simpson were taken, and somehow all before Deshaun Jackson. Off-ball linebackers. If you don't rush the passer, you're a second-class citizen as a linebacker, and that's a big reason that we've never had a middle linebacker go first overall in the draft. The highest we've seen an off-ball linebacker get taken was second overall. Quentin Coriat was taken that high by the Colts in 1992, and the Jags took Kevin Hardy second in 1996, but that's it. And I don't know how you want to classify LT, whether he was an edge or an outside linebacker, but he was taken second overall in 1981, behind a running back, George Rogers. Safety. Safety is considered a less valuable position than cornerback, but there's actually been a safety drafted in the top 2, but never number 1 overall. In 1991, the Browns took the late Eric Turner with the second pick, and he earned a spot on the All-Pro team in 1994. Center. Even though they touch the ball on every play, center isn't considered an especially valuable position, and that's been reflected in the draft. But wait till you lose your starting center. The highest we've seen a center come off the board was all the way back in 1968 when the Bengals spent the second overall pick on Bob Johnson out of Tennessee, who anchored their offensive line for a decade plus. But Johnson was an anomaly. He's the only center ever taken in the top 10. Since 2000, the highest has been 18th overall. Marquise Pouncey, Ryan Kelly, and Garrett Bradbury all went in that exact same slot. Cornerback. Despite being an incredibly skilled and difficult position, there's never been a corner taken with the first overall draft pick. In fact, the closest we've gotten is 3rd overall, both Jeff Okudah and Derek Stingley, who earned bronze in 2020 and 2022, respectively. Out of all the positions never to garner a first overall pick, corner is probably the one we'll see go first in the future, especially the way Sauce Gardner is playing. Guard. When the Colts took Notre Dame guard Quentin Nelson 6th overall, most analysts generally understood the pick. Guard isn't as valuable as tackle, but Nelson is a special type of beast in the trenches. But other guards have gone higher than 6, just not in a long time. Gary Zimmerman is a Hall of Fame tackle, but he was selected as a guard 3rd overall in 1984. That was a little different since it was the supplemental draft of the USFL and CFL players. For real though, in 1974 and 1975, guards went 3rd overall in back-to-back drafts, John Hicks and Ken Huff. Tight end. We've never seen a tight end go first off on the board, not even in the top 3. The highest a tight end has ever gone was when the Falcons drafted Kyle Pitts 4th overall just a couple years ago. Pitts flashed otherworldly athleticism at Florida, but his utilization in the NFL thus far hasn't matched his status as the highest valued tight end ever in draft history. Now, for the ones you have been waiting for. Place kicker. Yes, believe it or not, we have had kickers go in the first round of the draft. 3 of them, in fact. The Oakland Raiders spent the 17th overall pick on bomber Sebastian Janikowski in 2000, and the Cardinals took Steve Little 15th overall back in 1978. But the highest a kicker has ever gone is 11th when the Saints selected Texas kicker Russell Erxelben. Erxelben is a strange case because he was both a punter and a kicker, which may have justified his draft spot if he wasn't a massive disappointment, not only on the field, but in life as he was arrested for running a Ponzi scheme. Look that up. Fullback. There's only been 1 fullback selected in the first round of the draft. That distinction belongs to Roger Vick, who was taken 21st overall by, shocker, the New York Jets in 1987. Vick was not worth the investment, though he did surpass 1,000 yards in his career, but he ultimately lasted just 5 seasons before he was a member of the Orlando Thunder in the World Football League. Now our penultimate position. Yes, there is one more after this. Punter. If you don't want to count Russell Erxleben or Erxleben, the highest drafted punter of all time is a pretty damn good one. Ray Guy. Ray Guy was selected 23rd overall by the Raiders, of course, in 1973. Ray wasn't just a guy, he was him. He turned out to be the first and only punter enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, just 4 punters have been taken in the second round and 12 have come off the board in the third round, including the 2 Colquitts. And the highest drafted punter of the 21st century is Brian Anger, who was taken 70th overall by the Jaguars in 2012. And finally, the very specific position of long snapper. Every position has been taken in the first round of the draft except, of course, long snapper. The highest drafted pure long snapper in the history of the NFL draft was Ryan Pontbriand of Rice University, who was selected in the 5th round with the 142nd overall pick by the Cleveland Browns. And by God, he justified that pick when he made back-to-back Pro Bowls in 2007 and 2008. Though on the contrast, long snapping is widely regarded as the quickest way to the NFL, especially for undersized, slower players. Just don't expect to hear your name called on day 1, 2, or even 3. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe you learned something. I certainly did. I didn't know a corner had never been taken number 1 overall. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.